Hi guys, how are you doing? I hope you guys are doing okay. Haven't seen you guys for a few weeks and not sure if you how well you guys are doing. I'm doing okay. Um, Knowing that the recent development of the city isn't all that good, but well, let's keep our finger crossed and make this a better Hong Kong. Now, back to the course. Essence of computing. We still have two more lectures to go. Okay, basically, we've got lecture 11. This lecture will be on web data analysis and we'll make use of Facebook as an example. Okay, this is what this lecture is all about. Okay, and there is one more lecture which is going to be on lecture 12. Okay, and lecture 12 is basically on Google and search engines. We'll make use of Google as an example to talk about search engines and more to that. Besides talking about search engines, we'll also talk about some latest uh, technology trend of computing science and as well as technology. Talk a bit about AI and all that. And uh, basically, we've got two more lectures, and that will be all. And okay, let's begin. Now, lecture 11. This lecture is going to be on web data analysis, and we'll be making use of Facebook as an example. Now, okay, many people are using Facebook. I believe most of you would have a Facebook account. Okay, you could be using it for different purpose, and many people are using it for well, okay, waking them up. Okay, the first thing that they would do after waking up, they would be checking their Facebook, reading news from Facebook, chatting with friends through Facebook, online chat, or Messenger, or while reading news feeds for from other people. Okay, so there are lots and lots of pictures as well, just like what we are showing here. Okay, millions of pictures. Um, Here there are different facts, interesting facts about Facebook, and you can see. Okay, 75 million people using it, and all this. Okay, so lots and lots of interesting things about Facebook. Here, if you look at this video, the link is provided right here, telling you some shocking facts about Facebook, and you may want to have a look at this. Now, also Facebook is developing very quickly and has been growing, for the past number of years, uh, a lot. Okay, and you can also see that WhatsApp, okay, which is a part of Facebook, okay, is also on the rise as well. Now, so why do we care about Facebook? As a matter of fact, we want to make use of Facebook as a little example to show us about web technologies. Say Web 2.0, dynamic web, things. These are things that are behind Facebook, technologies behind Facebook, making Facebook possible and making it all the success. Now, besides the web, okay, Facebook is also supported by database. We'll talk a bit about database, okay, how Facebook handles so many accounts, so many status, comments, photos, and all that. As well, how would Facebook extract news feeds and suggest pages for us? Now, this part relating to web analytics, how they analyze our data, okay, and from there to make news feeds, extracting news feeds for us, and also suggesting pages for us. So that's what we'll be talking about in this lecture. Now, before we go on, okay, let me remind you a bit, recap a bit about what we talked about previously. Okay, when we were talking about network communication, data communication, we talked about two important concepts: servers and clients, and how we communicate over the internet. Okay. Now, servers, to remind you a bit, they are basically computers online providing some service to other computers. Examples such as web servers, email servers, YouTube, and all this. They are servers. They are there to provide service to other computers. On the other hand, client computers, basically the computer that you and I use, just or perhaps the desktop computer that right now I am facing, delivering this lecture. Okay, client computers, basically they send requests over the internet to servers requesting for service. So clients asking for service from servers, as you may remember. Okay, so this is the kind of model that we have with client server over the internet. Now, with such client server model, okay, we've got the web, okay, the World Wide Web, okay, as one of the many services provided over the internet by the internet, okay. Now, when we talk about the World Wide Web, the client send HTTP request to the server. Now, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, okay, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and their request that we send to the server from the client in the form of a URL, okay, uniform resource locator. Now here, this one is an example of URL. Okay, you can see that this is typically, okay, the website address. We usually call it website address, but the formal name of it would be URL. Okay, uniform resource locator. Okay, now this, okay, the URL or maybe the web address. Okay, here it begins with HTTP, meaning that, okay, it is an HTTP request, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Okay, and we continue that with with the colon and a double forward slash. And this first part is basically the address, the name of the server. Now, with this name of the server, the computer would be able to find out the IP address and then sending the request to this server, to the corresponding IP, okay, for the service. This second part, okay, after the forward slash right here, this part is basically exactly which service we are asking for from the server, okay. Right now, this one is asking for www.tvb.com. Oh, wow, CCTVB. Okay, asking it for service, and we are asking for this file, index.html. Okay, HTML, if you still remember, is hypertext markup language. Okay, I'll show you example later on. Okay, so we are asking for this file from this server, tvb.com, www.tvb.com, and this whole thing, we call that the URL. Now, after a server receives the request, it responds with the corresponding web page. Now, so this is what we do, the web client right here, sending an HTTP request. Here, this one is the HTTP request. Over the internet, going to the web server. The web server replying the request, responding with the corresponding web page. Okay, so you can see that this one is the web page response, and then sending it through the internet, and then through the internet reaching the web client. You can see that, okay, you send the request, HTTP request, to the web server, and then replying you with the corresponding web page. And when the client receiving the web page, what it would do is the following. You see, this is an example of HTML file. Okay, this HTML is the content. Okay, is right here. You can see that inside it has got some something, we call it the tags. Okay, here, this is the web page. You can see that this web page, when it is displayed, okay, this HTML file, when it is displayed, is like this. This is my lovely web page. It is right here. You can see that this is my lovely web page. Now, we display this using H1. H1 means that it is a header, a page header. Therefore, it is displayed in some bigger font size like this. Okay, and you see this tag P, and it implies that this one starting from here, ending here, this one is a paragraph. Okay, over here inside this paragraph, it has lots of lovely content. Okay, it has lots of lovely content inside here, and you can see that this em meaning that is emphasized. Okay, here this part emphasized text. Okay, em here you can see that these tags basically are there to tell the computer how to display the web page, giving instructions, telling the computer how to display the page. Now, this is what we call a markup language, telling the computer how to display the page. This hypertext markup language. Now, you can see that this HTML file telling the computer how to draw the page. This is inside the web page. Now, this web page, it is a static file, okay, or basically it is a file that is sent from the server to the client inside an HTML or an HTML file. Now, such a file, basically they are static web pages. If you do not update the content inside here, the page would be displayed always like this. And so it requires you to update this file in order to update the content inside here. And this is what we call a static web page. So far, what we have discussed, they are static web pages, and they are only content of inside an HTML page. It doesn't update. It does not update itself unless the file is updated. Therefore, does it mean that we always have to update the file before we get the content updated? Okay. Now, consider a website like Facebook. Okay, it's got millions of users and each page is different. You see the page for Mark Zuckerberg, okay, the founder of Facebook, okay, displayed like this. The content different. Okay, another one, okay, the Facebook page for the Department of Computer Science. It looks like this. Now, this the content is completely different from this one. And take note that Facebook has got millions of users. Doesn't mean that Facebook has got millions and millions of web pages, static web pages for describing each of those users. And what about updating of all those status pictures and all that? How did they do it? Facebook, how can they handle so many users? Do they make use of static web pages all the time? The answer is simple. No, they do not do it like this. Rather, they keep it as dynamic web pages. Now, what I mean by dynamic web pages, if you look at these two web page or Facebook page, they are so much similar. They're very similar in different parts of it, but some part to be different. Say the picture different, the cover picture is different, while the format looks the same. The format looks the same. You see the menu bar right here, menu bar right here, some buttons right here, some buttons right here, etc., etc. So the layout to be similar, but the format to be the same, but the content to be different. And we will rely on dynamic web pages to doing things like this. You can see that, okay, some elements are dynamic elements you request for the page of Mark Zuckerberg, okay? It will generate for you this page. You request a web page for the Department of Computer Science. It will display it like this. And some part, this part, different based on your request. This part, different based on your request. On the other hand, some part to be static. Do not change. Say the header right here. Always like this. Do not change. This menu bar right here doesn't change as well. So something like this would be static. So we've got some elements to be static and some elements to be dynamic. So what do? relying on dynamic web page, we do it like this. We form the template. Okay, we've got a template like this. The yellow part is the part that we filled in based on the request of the user. When they're asking for Mark Zuckerberg, we'll give it this page and giving all the content right here, the yellow part with Mark Zuckerberg's information. If you are asking for the Department of Computer Science, we give you the profile picture as well as the cover picture, but that comes in from the Department of Computer Science. So this is what we do, and based on what you ask for, okay, dynamically we generate the content. Those are dynamic elements. Now, if you look at dynamic web page, okay, what we do is this: we make use of a template, okay, and okay, the template part, the yellow part, is something that we get from the database. We combine information from the template with information from the database, putting everything together and combine it to form the web page of Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, now this, okay, based on the request from the user, dynamically generating on the fly. And this is what we mean. So we basically have a database joining with the template. Now, database, okay, the content of the dynamic web page are basically stored inside the database. The database is preferred as it database is preferred as it supports query language. It is basically a special language that you can ask the database questions, and it will give you the corresponding answers or data from the database on the fly. Okay, very quickly. Okay, say for example this right here to select all users from the database who comes in from certain country. Okay, I'll explain this to you a bit more later. Now, dynamic web pages, if you compare that with static web pages, it goes like this. To generate the HTML, okay, the web server combines the data from the database and combining it with the template, which comes in telling us the style and also the template filling out the necessary information that it receives from the database. Now, this is what we do. Okay, the web client, first of all, similar to what we did before, sends in the web client sending in an HTTP request to the web server. Of course, here it will be going through the internet, reaching the web server. Now, when the web server receives the request, it goes to the database and requests for the corresponding data. And then the database system would reply with the data, and the web server would combine the data with the template and forming the HTML file, passing it, sending it back to the web client. This is what the server would do. Okay? Once again, first of all, client send in the HTTP request, and then the server, after it's been received by the web server, the web server would pass the request to the database system. The database system right here would then reply with the corresponding data. Well, and then the web server would combine the information from the template with the data and then forming the HTML file and reply that back to the web client. Okay. Now, with dynamic HTML architecture, uh, actually user can contribute lots and lots of information. We need not to wait for users to update the static web page so that we can get the latest information. So now have a look at the following. Suppose we've got a Facebook user, okay, which is this guy, okay, And this guy, first of all, sending in an HTML form informing the web server, hey, I've got some status updates. Say, for example, for Facebook, when you make a post, okay, when you make a post, you send the information in the form of an HTML form, all right, to the web server. Inside this form, it contains all the information. Say, for example, it's a new post. What is the content of your post? That would be inside the form. All right. Now, when the web server receiving that such information, it would then store the data, your latest post, your information update, and all that, sending it to the database. This database will organize and save all the data inside itself. And okay, later on, another web user, sending in a request to the web server. Now, the web server would then go to the database, requesting for the information that this guy is asking for. And the database system sends in the data to the web server, and the web server would then reply the second client with the data and the template, combined it and sending it to this user right here. Now, if you look at this model, it means that, okay, a web user would be able to send in new information, updates, or whatsoever, and it will just be stored inside the database. What if this guy is contributing whole bunch of information, whole bunch of content? Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, that brings us to Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. First of all, let me tell you a bit about Web 1.0. Web 1.0 basically content provided by the website. The website creating all those contents, and we as client just go up there and request for information and getting the information back. This is somewhat closer to the static web page scenario, where the information must be updated. Well, here in this case, updated by the owner of the web server, and it is then the web page is then updated. If no update here, no update with the server at the server, you will not be able to get the update. This one, basically all the information derived or created by the owner of the system. Okay, information, it requires the owner of the server to update the information and be able to send to the user. All right, this one you can see that all the information coming in from the owner of the server. If they are willing to update the page, you get the update. If they do not update it, it's static all the time, staying like this. All right. On the other hand, Web 2.0, this one, a user gets to contribute information, contribute data. It's just like this previous one. Okay, user sends in your data through some HTML form, for example, or somehow upload your picture, upload some video, etc., to the web server. All right, the web server receiving all those data, be it text or audio data or some videos, etc., would then be stored inside the database. Later on, when another user requesting for those information, it will be combined with the template and then sent to this client right here. Now, since everybody under this module would be allowed to contribute data to the web server, therefore, under Web 2.0, users get to contribute data to the internet. Now, this part makes it much better for the general user because most users would be allowed to generate content. And the content over in the internet grows a lot since everybody they are contributing information, contributing data to the internet. While if we look at what 1.0, it is only generated by the owner of the server. All right. So this one basically allowed ordinary people to gain access to the internet as well as updating information. And they will provide all bunch of information. For example, blogs, Wikipedia, video sharings, etc., etc. Now, the next part we'd like to talk a bit about database. Okay, now this little video right here is a bit long. Okay, I won't be going into the details of this video, but I will allow you to click onto this link and watch the video. Okay, let me tell you a bit about database. Okay, database basically is for the sake of organizing data. Is a mechanism for storing, matching, and retrieving information, retrieving data through the use of tables. Now, what do I mean by tables? Tables basically something like this. Well, you look at this, it looks so much like Excel tables, Excel spreadsheets. Okay? Inside the database, inside the table, what we have is, well, we've got many different columns. Okay, now you can see the heading of the columns. They are here. They are user ID, first name, last name, email, date of birth, password, and country. Now these are information. Well, typically about one user. All right. Horizontally, you've got one record at a time. So the user ID 1 right here, the name of this person is Dieter Hobbs. Okay, that's the email address. That's the date of birth, password, and all this. The country. Now, this to be a table. It looks so much like Excel tables. Okay, but they restrict us inside a database where columns is actually the fields or attributes of certain data. All right. Horizontally, each row you've got one single record for each row, so it looks so much like Excel. But here they restrict you one horizontally as one row. Now, the good thing about database is that it can handle query very quickly, way better than Excel files. Okay, it's much more powerful than spreadsheets in the way that you're able to manipulate the data. All right, using certain query language. We call that SQL. Now, for example, here are some examples that you may want to do. Okay, retrieve all records that match certain criteria. All right. Another one is performing calculations. You can make use of SQL to perform some basic calculations for you. And lastly, okay, cross-reference records in different tables. Okay, I'll explain them to you one at a time. Now, let's first talk about how we can make use of database to retrieve records, all records from a table that matches certain criteria. Suppose we want to search for all records where the country is United States. Now, here we've got the table for user information. I just want to ask the question, give me the names or give me the information of all those who are coming in from United States. So that's what we are doing. Now, this is a query. Okay, we make use of SQL to ask such a question. Select star, meaning that, okay, get all the information about from this user info table, okay, from user info, where country equals to United States. So it will get all the records where the country is United States. This star right here means that I get all attributes. All attributes. The user ID, the first name, last name, email address, blah, blah, blah. All that, all those attributes. Retrieve for me all those attributes. So by doing this, query will arrive at this result. You can see that as listing for us only user with United States as the country. All right, all the others are skipped. Okay, all the others are skipped, and we are only picking up those that are coming in from United States. All right. Now the next one. This next one is again retrieving records that matches certain criteria, but right now this time we do not ask for all information. The last time we asked for everything. The star means that we are asking for all attributes. Right now we specify we are only asking for some attributes. Say for example here we are getting user info dot email. Okay, so from this user info table, I just want to get the email address, this column, or this information. As well, user info dot country right here. Now, if I get only these two, email and also country, from this table, user info table, also again, where country equals to United States. So if we choose it like this, we only get the email information and also the country. Mind you that the user ID, the first name, last name, not retrieved. Not retrieved. We are only getting the email and also the country. If you compare that with the last time, the start, we're getting everything. The user ID, the first name, last name, email address, blah, 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 everything to start. But here we can specify what attributes we are trying to get. Okay, so we can retrieve records that matches certain criteria. The next one, okay, we want to perform some basic calculations. For example, we want to find out all those users whose age is below 20. So we do it like this. Now, mind you that we only have date of birth. We do not have an attribute by the name age. We don't have such a thing. So what we need to do is to do our basic calculation. All right. Now, first of all, you see this right here. Select. Okay, select means that we want those fields, right? Okay, we want the first name, the last name, and also a date of birth. All right, and this whole thing, this blue thing right here, the whole thing we call it age. Now this right here is a bit long. This one is for calculating the age. Now when we calculate the age, we are mindful about the current date. What is today? Has the guy passed his birth date? What is the age of that guy? We do not simply take the year and do the subtraction as the age. We actually calculate. This blue part is for the sake of calculating the age. All right, just for the calculation. Now we get all this: the first name, last name, date of birth, this blue thing as age from this user info table, this user info database, where this whole thing, all right, is less than or equals to 20. Now, here, this blue thing, you can see that is basically the same as what we have up here. As I said, this is for calculating the age, and this exactly the same thing. Once again, calculating the age and requesting that it is less than or equals to 20. This is the condition that we want. If it is less than or equals to 20, or the age is less than or equal to 20, and then we list them. Okay, this is the criteria. When it's less than or equal to 20, we list it. Now, as you still remember, okay, we do not have a field by the name age in the original database. In this one, we do not have age. We just calculate the age like this, and when we do the select, look at this. We've got the first name, last name, date of birth, and also something as age. Now, we do not have age in our previous database. We are creating a new information, we call it age, by doing this calculation right here. Now, we do all this and from the database as if the age, as calculated this way, is less than or equals to 20, then that meets our criteria. All right, and those will be records that will be listing. Now, we also have one extra thing, order. Now, order by user info date of birth, meaning that I am going to list all those records according to the date of birth, listing all this based on the sorting result, the order, all right, by the date of birth. So this one is what we do for doing some basic calculations. The next one. Now imagine that we are talking about Facebook. Okay, how Facebook remembers friendship. Okay, inside Facebook, how does it store friendship? Now look at this table right here. Typically, you may think that this is what Facebook does. Okay, now typically the user ID, the username, the email address, perhaps some other information, and you might think that, oh, okay, for Amy, Facebook would keep a list of friends of Amy right here under a column, say friends. Okay, for Brian, he has got these 4 friends, etc., etc. So you might think that we've got a column that is friends, listing all the friends of individual users. But well, in reality, we do not do it like this. Suppose we want to add two people, they become friends. How do we handle this? If we do it like this way, what we need to do is, suppose Eva and Cherry, they become friends. Okay, so Eva, the name of Eva has to be added to Cherry's friend list like this. And for Eva, you also have to add Cherry to this list right here. So it would be very troublesome. Suppose we want to look for mutual friends. Okay, as you can see on the next slide. Okay, on later slides. Okay, rather than doing it like this, okay, we do not keep the user info, keeping the friends information inside the user info table. Rather, we do it like this. We have one table, 2 tables. Okay, the first one being the user table or maybe the user info table. The second one, we call that the friendship table. Now, inside the user table or user info table, we only keep the user ID, the username, and the email address and other information. We do not keep any friends information. Rather, we keep it inside the friendship table. See how we read this, okay? User ID 1. 1 right here means that 1 is Amy. Amy is a friend with user ID 2. 2 is Brian. Okay, if you look at this one, Amy is a friend of Brian. Brian, okay, has got Amy as his friend. Okay, so this is what we do. We make use of the friendship table. Let me take another example. 2, 5, 2 is Brian. 5 is Eva. All right. You go back to the previous slide. Okay. Brian has got Eva as his friend, while Eva has got Brian as her friend. Now, rather than using this way, we make use of the friendship table and capturing different friendships right here. Now, back to our original question. Suppose Cherry and Eva, they become friends. So what do? We add a new row inside the friendship table. Here, 3, 5. 3, who is 3? Cherry. Who has 5? 5, Eva. Alright? Means that they become friends with each other. Alright? So, rather than adding names to the friend list right here, we do it like this, the friendship table. Now, let's look at the following and see how we can find mutual friends. Okay, friends that are both okay, people who are friends with Amy and also with Brian, mutual friends. So this is what we do. Okay, we select user ID and username from the user table or the user info table. All right, where user ID inside this list and user ID inside here. Now, look at what we keep right here. Inside this curly bracket right here, we select all those user ID 2 from the friendship table. User ID 2 from the friendship table. Okay, where the user ID 1 friendship user ID 1 equals to 1. So it means that a user ID 1 being 1 right here like this, it means that they are trying to get all the records right here, right? Now, from this, we only get the user ID 2. Okay, we only select user ID 2. Select user ID 2 from this friendship table where the user ID equals to 1. So this one basically asking for all the friends of 1. All the friends of 1. Who is 1? 1 is Amy. Okay. Asking for all the friends of Amy. Here, similar thing. Okay. Asking for all the friends of 2. 2 being Brian. Okay. Asking for all the friends of Brian. Here, this one, all the friends of Amy. Here, all the friends of Brian. Now, it is asking A. Okay, we want user ID in this right here and user ID in here. So if you look at the first one, okay, we get all the user ID 2 from the friendship table where friendship user ID 1 equals to 1. So we get 2, 3, and 5. We put that here. Here, we've got, okay, we look for user ID 2. Okay, so we get 4, 5, 6, right? Okay, these 3 guys, they are friends of user ID 2, or basically Brian. So we've got 2, 3, 5, and 4, 5, 6. And then we ask, we want those user ID in this and also in this. Okay, so overlapping, we've got only 5 overlapping. Therefore, the common friend would be 5, Eva. All right, between Amy and Brian. All right, between Amy and Brian. Okay, the common friend would be 5 right here, Eva. Now, let's talk a bit about web data analysis. Given that we've got database to support our discussion, okay, we've got database. And how can we analyze data that we receive over the web? Now, if you still remember, okay, Web 2.0, we are getting all kinds of data from the user. We make use of dynamic web to provide the information to the users. Web 2.0, we're getting all kinds of data from the user. How do we store all those data? We store it inside database, and we have talked a bit about that part. With the database, with all kinds of data coming in from Web 2.0, how do we analyze all those data? Now, the question right here is, we want to analyze those data so that we can extract news feed and send it to the users. For example, in Facebook, okay, they show up some news feeds that you have from posts of your friends, pictures of your friends, etc., etc., showing them on your news feed. Okay, how do they make suggestions to your page? That would be web data analysis. Now, on Facebook, okay, Facebook automatically extracting news feeds for you. News feed typically post pictures and all that coming in from your friends. How did they do it? Why some of your friends' updates do not appear on your news feed at all? Why sometimes you always see the same set of friends that you have over in Facebook, seeing the news all the time? Why is this the case? Also, for Facebook, how do they make suggestions of page or ads for you? Typically on the right hand side of the page, they show you some ads. So how do they generate all those advertisements? Okay, how do they make recommendations to you, suggesting pages for you? That's the question. Now, suppose we've got the following settings. Okay, we've got the following pages over in Facebook. Okay, following pages over in Facebook, and here a whole bunch of users, and different users, they've got different interests and they like different pages. Okay, now a question here: how would Facebook suggest pages for you? Okay, if you look at this table right here. Okay, of course, Facebook would only be making a decision of recommending you to Starbucks, H&M, or maybe Lemonade. Okay, here it would not be making suggesting pages you have already liked. Okay, so how would Facebook make such recommendation? You may think that, oh, okay, look at this. This one, Starbucks has got the most number of users saying that to be good. Okay, most people like Starbucks and therefore suggesting Starbucks to you. But as a matter of fact, it would not be suggesting Starbucks to you. Rather, it will be recommending H&M to you. Why is this the case? Now, if you look at these two users, you and also Diana, both of you, you like computer science department, she likes computer science department. You like Melissa, she likes Melissa as well. You like Toys R Us, she likes it as well. So you and Diana, the two of you, you share very similar interests. So Facebook would make a recommendation based on users who share similar interests as you do. Here, Diana likes H&M. Therefore, very likely you will like H&M as well. So it's making recommendations, suggesting H&M to you. Now, this form of recommendation, we call this collaborative filtering. Collaborative filtering is a common web technique for generating personalized recommendations, just like what we have here. Personalized recommendations based on your interests, based on your previous interaction with the system, and from there, making recommendations to you. Collaborative filtering. It's based on the following assumptions. People who like, for example, people who like X also like Y. Therefore, if Alice and Bob, if both of them they like X, and suppose Alice likes Y as well, then likely Bob would likely be interested in Y as well. Okay, Alice and Bob, both of them they like X, both of them interested in X. Suppose Alice is interested in Y, then likely Bob will also be interested in Y. That's the kind of assumption, just like what we have here. Diana and you share very similar interests. Diana likes H&M, therefore likely you'll like H&M as well. This, they call it collaborative filtering. Collaborative, collaboration, working together. Okay, you work with other people, you collaborate with other people. Collaborative filtering. Many people coming in, showing their interest, and based on common interest to make recommendations to you. We call this collaborative filtering. Now, for example, in Netflix, okay, Netflix you may know is a movie rental website. Okay, they often show to you other movies you might enjoy. Now, this is basically based on your previous interaction on Netflix, or suppose how you rate or how you rank different movies. All right. Why do they recommend movies like this based on previous interactions with Netflix? Look at this. Suppose we are asked to recommend a movie to Alice. Okay? Alice right here, she has viewed different movies. Okay, ranking movie 1 giving 2, movie 3 with 4, movie 6 with 2, etc., etc. Okay, and something like this for Bob, Chris, and Diana. Now, the bigger the number, the higher the rating. All right. Now, suppose we are to recommend a movie to Alice. Of course, it will be movies that she has not rated, movie 2, 4, or 5. Okay. Now, how would you make the recommendation? Would you recommend the movie with the highest rating, highest average to Alice? What do you do? Now, if you recommend the movie with the highest rating, then you will pick movie 5 because the average right here, you see the average rating for among different movies, 4.33 right here, which is the highest. Okay. Now, but no, you would not be recommending movie 5. Rather, you would look for a user with the most similar interests as Alice and to make recommendation. You would recommend movie 2 instead. Now, the reason goes like this. If you look at Alice and Bob, they share very similar interests. For movie 1, both of them rated, well, not so good. Alice gave it a 2 and Bob gave it a 1. Okay. For movie 3, both of them rated it as 4. And for movie 6, both of them rated it as 2. So, Alice and Bob, they share very similar interests. Therefore, okay, when we look, okay, movie 2 rated as 5 and movie 5 rated as 3. Therefore, okay, Bob likes movie 2 a lot. Therefore, we recommend movie 2 to Alice. All right. We will say that Bob gives 5 to movie 2. Then likely Alice would like movie 2 as well. That's how we would approach this recommendation question. Yeah, so collaborative filtering seems to be a very good tool for making recommendations, but sometimes it's got its own problem. Now, here, the first one we are going to talk about is rich gets richer effect, and the second one is cold start problem. Now, I'll explain them to you one by one. Now, the first one, rich gets richer effect. Okay, say for example, for Facebook, it extracts news feeds based on your past interaction with other users. What I mean by extracting news feeds, okay, your friends, okay, writing some posts or posting some pictures on Facebook, okay. How do they make recommendations? How do they choose among different friends of yours and showing up their posts on your news feed? That's the question. That based on previous interactions you have with other users. Okay. Now, post that appears on your newsfeed based on how will have a higher chance. Okay, when those posts showing up on your newsfeed, they will have a high chance to be liked or viewed by you. Okay, yeah, fair, because less likely you'll be deliberately visiting other people's page to search for information. Most likely on your newsfeed, you will say you'll view or like those posts. Now, that will increase the interaction between you and those users. And because of more interaction, increase the interaction, then more likely those web pages or those posts would be appearing on your news feed again later on. So the higher the chance showing up on your news feed, the higher the chance you have interaction between those posts, those pictures, therefore increasing the chance. Okay, therefore, so to speak, the rich gets richer effect. Okay, more likely that you'll be liking those posts. Okay, because of previous interactions. The more you interact with those posts, the higher the chance you like them. The more interaction you have with those posts, the higher the chance they will be showing up on your newsfeed. The higher the chance they are showing up on your newsfeed, the higher the chance you will be liked or viewed by you. All right, and therefore increasing the interaction. So it makes this kind of feedback, okay, positive feedback, and more likely you'll be seeing those posts on your newsfeed. They call this the rich gets richer effect. On the other hand, there is also the cold start problem. Now, with the cold start problem, okay, we know that collaborative filtering recommend items based on users' previous preference or maybe rating or maybe interaction, right? Okay. Suppose we've got a new user. We do not have any past preference about the user. The user has not rated any items before. So how do we make recommendations? Okay, so Facebook would not know how to make recommendations under such situation. So it would be okay. Facebook would be making poor recommendations to the user. Keep on posting different things to the user and try to learn about the preference of the user. Okay, the new user will need to rate sufficiently many number of items before it will be able the system be able to provide accurate preference or accurate recommendations to the user. Otherwise, okay, so the system needs the user to make preference rating to items before sufficiently many number of those before the system be able to provide good recommendations to it. On the other hand, suppose we've got a new item coming into the system. Suppose we've got a new page on Facebook. Okay, so how would we recommend that page to other users? Now, the new item has not been rated by any users. So we don't know how other users would see it. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Or what? How would we recommend that new item or that new page to other users? When a new item is added to the system, they need to be rated by substantial number of users before they could be recommended to users who have similar tastes with the one rated them. Okay. Without such information, we would not know how to recommend those new items to users. All right. So you can see that new users or new items will have a hard time to recommend things to new users or recommending new items to users. We call this cold start problem. We first begin, be it a user, be it an item, starting, we'll have a cold start problem. That's what we mean by the cold start problem. So we've got the rich gets richer effect, as well as the cold start problem for collaborative filtering. Now, we can see that for well collaborative filtering, we've got a huge data set. Taking Facebook as an example, we've got millions of users and also millions of posts and items. Therefore, it is very hard for the system to be able to handle that amount of data. Lots and lots of data. Okay, huge data set. So we have to worry about performance of the database, how we can react quickly or even immediately. Okay, so we've got to consider different things. We've got courses like Introduction to Web Intelligence or Data Mining. Those are areas about collaborative filtering or maybe how we handle huge data set. Okay, now more to collaborative filtering. Uh, Collaborative filtering is actually one part, one branch of customer relationship management. The CRM basically are there for handling relationship with customers. Okay, CRM is often based on the use of IT, and collaborative filtering is only one branch of the CRM. Web analytics. Very often they analyze different things about the users. For example, analyzing how much time customers spend on a web page. When you browse different web pages, they actually time you how much time you spend on different parts, different web pages, or when you're working with a mobile device, okay, on your mobile phone, how much time you spend on different web pages, how much time you spend on different parts of the page, when do you scroll. Now they keep track of all those time. Okay, the longer you spend on a page, the longer time you spend on a part of the page, meaning that hey, you are interested in that. Okay, so what typically a system can do is, okay, the more you are interested in that sort of information, they will show you more about those information, and those information can create marketing strategy and just to develop and sustain desirable long-term relationship with the user, with the customers. CRM at the end of the day is for the sake of managing relationship with the customer. Now, typically for CRM, they make use of cookies. What is a cookie? Basically, they are small data files that are stored inside the user's hard disk. When you visit a website, what they would do is they would send you this little data file. They call it a cookie. They send it to your computer. You will store that onto your own hard disk, and the next time you visit the same website, they will ask you to present the cookie that they sent to you last time. Now, imagine the following. Suppose today you've got to bring in a jacket to a dry cleaner for cleaning. So what do? You drop the jacket there. They will give you a receipt. And on that receipt, they've got a little invoice. They've got a little reference number. A few days later, okay, you bring in that receipt with the reference number. They look at the reference number and they know about, hey, your jacket, has it been returned? Is it with the store? Is it ready? Etc. Etc. Okay, so with the reference number, they know who you are, what you have done with them before. Here, this little data file is, or they call it the cookie, is the same effect. Inside the data file, they store information about you so that the next time you go to the same website, uh, you present back to them the same data file, and they know who you are, and they know what you have done with them before, and so that it will be able to handle relationship with you, what you have done before. They know about you. So this is what they do. Okay, re-access the next time when you revisit the same website. Okay, so they know about your previous order, and with your previous interaction with that website, they know how to show you similar items or recommending similar items to you, or be able to greet you, say hello John, okay, on the page, showing up your name, etc., etc. So this is one way for them to manage relationship with its own customer. Now, say Amazon right here, okay, you have visited Amazon enough time, and they will be able to track you based on using cookies and be able to give you recommendation to you related items you've viewed. All right. Here, they also make use of CRM to do email marketing or push technology, sending you email based on your previous interactions. So this is what they do. Well, we make use of cookies to interact with users, learning about users' previous interactions with our website. Okay, but there are scary part about data analytics, about cookies and all this. Say for example, this little video right here. You can click this link to view this video. This video tells us how different websites track the users. Now let's take a look at this little video.
I don't know why, but I'm continually amazed to think that 2.5 billion of us around the world are connected to each other through the internet, and that at any point in time, more than 30% of the world's population can go online to learn, to create, and to share. And the amount of time each of us is spending doing all of this is also continuing to grow. A recent study showed that the young generation alone is spending over 8 hours a day online. As the parent of a 9-year-old girl, that number seems awfully low. But just as the internet has opened up the world for each and every one of us, it has also opened up each and every one of us to the world. And increasingly, the price we're being asked to pay for all of this connectedness is our privacy. Today, what many of us would love to believe is that the internet is a private place. It's not. And with every click of the mouse and every touch of the screen, we are like Hansel and Gretel, leaving breadcrumbs of our personal information everywhere we travel through the digital woods. We are leaving our birthdays, our places of residence, our interests and preferences, our relationships, our financial histories, and on it goes. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that sharing data is a bad thing. In fact, when I know the data that's being shared and I'm asked explicitly for my consent, I want some sites to understand my habits. It helps them suggest books for me to read, or movies for my family to watch, or friends for us to connect with. But when I don't know, and when I haven't been asked, that's when the problem arises. It's a phenomenon on the internet today called behavioral tracking, and it is very big business. In fact, there's an entire industry formed around following us through the digital woods and compiling a profile on each of us. And when all of that data is held, they can do almost whatever they want with it. This is an area today that has very few regulations and even fewer rules. Except for some of the recent announcements here in the United States and Europe, it's an area of consumer protection that's almost entirely naked. So let me expose this lurking industry a little bit further. The visualization you see forming behind me is called Collusion. And it's an experimental browser add-on that you can install in your Firefox browser that helps you see where your web data is going and who's tracking you.
Now, let me jump in a bit. Now, plugged in, Collusion is a plugin. It's basically a little program that you can install to your browser. Right now, they're installing this to Firefox. Okay, it is something that works with your browser alongside with the browser and be able to get information, tracking information about the browser. All right, and this is what Collusion is doing. Now, it's trying to get the information how cookies are interacting with your browser. Okay, let's continue.
The red dots you see up there are sites that are behavioral tracking that I have not navigated to, but are following me. The blue dots are the sites that I've actually navigated directly to. And the gray dots are sites that are also tracking me, but I have no idea who they are.
Now, let me jump in a little bit and explain how those other websites that you have not navigated to and how they can track you. Basically, it goes like this. Okay, for example, you visit a website, say Facebook. Okay, on the right-hand side, typically they've got some advertisement. Advertisement usually they do not come in directly from Facebook. What they do is, okay, they pull in the information from another website, from another web server. Since you are asking those servers or those advertising servers to give you the information, they send you the cookie. And they will be able to use the cookie to track you. Now, those websites, they use the term behavioral tracking, all right? And basically, the next time you visit another web page, okay, likely you'll be asking for information from the same advertising server and be able, oh, okay, that server would then ask you for, hey, do you have my cookie? Do you have a cookie that I gave to you previously? And there, they track you from one website going to another website. And that's how they track you. And you can see that the blue dots here are websites that you actively visit. Perhaps you type in the URL and visit them. And the red dots or maybe the gray dots are something that you have not actively type in the URL or actively invoke the visiting of those websites, but they are tracking you.
All of them are connected, as you can see, to form a picture of me on the web, and this is my profile. So let me go from an example to something very specific and personal. I installed Collusion in my own laptop 2 weeks ago, and I let it follow me around for what was a pretty typical day. Now, like most of you, I actually start my day going online and checking email. I then go to a news site, look for some headlines, and in this particular case, I happened to like one of them on the merits of music literacy in schools, and I shared it over a social network. Our daughter then joined us at the breakfast table, and I asked her, is there an emphasis on music literacy in your school? And she, of course, naturally, as a 9-year-old, looked at me and said quizzically, what's literacy? So I sent her online, of course, to look it up. Now let me stop here. We are not even 2 bites into breakfast, and there are already nearly 25 sites that are tracking me. I have navigated to a total of 4. So let me fast forward through the rest of my day. I go to work, I check email, I log on to a few more social sites, I blog, I check more news reports, I share some of those news reports, I go look at some videos. Pretty typical day, in this case actually fairly pedantic, and at the end of the day, as my day winds down, look at my profile. The red dots have exploded. The gray dots have grown exponentially. All in all, there's over 150 sites that are now tracking my personal information, most all of them without my consent. I look at this picture and it freaks me out. This is nothing. I am being stalked across the web. And why is this happening? Pretty simple. It's huge business. The revenue of the top handful of companies in this space is over $39 billion today. And as adults, we are certainly not alone. At the same time I installed my own Collusion profile, I installed one for my daughter. And on one single Saturday morning, over 2 hours on the internet, here's her Collusion profile. This is a 9-year-old girl navigating to principally children's sites. I moved from this, from freaked out to enraged. This is no longer me being a tech pioneer or a privacy advocate. This is me being a parent. Imagine in the physical world if somebody followed our children around with a camera and a notebook and recorded their every movement. I can tell you there isn't a person in this room that would sit idly by. We'd take action. It may not be good action, but we would take action. We can't sit idly by here either. This is happening today. Privacy is not an option, and it shouldn't be the price we accept for just getting on the internet. Our voices matter, and our actions matter even more. Today, we've launched Collusion. You can download it, install it in Firefox to see who is tracking you across the web and following you through the digital woods. Going forward, all of our voices need to be heard, because what we don't know can actually hurt us, because the memory of the internet is forever. We are being watched. It's now time for us to watch the watchers. Thank you.
Now imagine that this is somebody following you all the way around when you're visiting websites. Basically, somebody making use of a notebook, okay, jotting down every website that you're visiting. They measure how much time you're visiting different websites, and they know about everything that you do online. And that is kind of scary. And that's why we say that it is making a big impact to personal privacy. Now, you may want to also take a look at the next one, this one. Now, this one actually a little video talking about Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica actually claims that by counting the number of likes that you have on Facebook and be able to guess your personality. Now, they call this the 5 personality test, claiming that, okay, by looking at 10 of your likes, it will be able to make a good guess on your personality better than your colleagues, those who work with you. And with 150 likes, it will be able to make guesses better on you, better than your parents. And with 300, it will be able to understand you better than your partner, your boyfriend, or maybe your girlfriend. What I mean by likes or interactions with Facebook, typically like status posts of yours or sharings. You share other people's messages or posts, how you send messages to others, the content of your messages, photos, and all that. And by all those information, it will be able to make to have a good understanding about you. Now, this Cambridge Analytica was claimed to have been used by Donald Trump during his 2016 presidential election in the United States. Have a look at this video.
The big data company Cambridge Analytica used an algorithm capable of psychologically profiling users from their Facebook interactions alone. But how does it work? The Big 5 personality test has been used by psychologists for years. It scores you on 5 core traits. Openness. Do you welcome new experiences? Conscientiousness. How much of a perfectionist are you? Extroversion. Do you love a party? Agreeableness. How compassionate are you to others? And neuroticism. Do you often worry or get easily upset? Blended together, these broad traits sort people into personality types. For example, this is the adventurer. She's open, a bit neurotic, and loves variety. Or a protector. Agreeable, extroverted, he thinks of others. Or an executive. Conscientious and open, she's a natural leader. And the algorithm? It's been proved impressively accurate. With just 10 likes, and it's better at guessing what kind of person you are than your colleagues. 150 likes, it's more accurate than your parents. And just 300 likes, it's better at predicting your personality score than your partner. But every day we share more than just likes. Our digital footprint is a vast, ever-growing web of status posts, shares, messages, photos, all of which provide Facebook further insight into who we are. Cambridge Analytica were employed by President Trump's campaign during the 2016 US elections. The company's former boss, Alexander Nix, claimed before the election to have predicted the Big 5 score of every adult in America. But what did they do with that information? On Facebook, hundreds of adverts were posted every day, targeted at specific personality types, tailored towards people's innermost fears, needs, and emotions. For example, one of Donald Trump's key pledges was to defend the Second Amendment, the right of the individual to carry a gun. It was a user's Big Five score which dictated which advert landed in their newsfeed. For example, the adventurer, the open-minded but often impulsive, sometimes nervous individual might have seen something like this. An advert sending a message that freedom must be protected from outside threats. Or, for the protector, the guardian, an advert like this, suggesting guns are an essential tool in safeguarding others. And finally, the executive, the rational thinking forward planner, receives a message about protecting her family and the future. But can big data win an election? Cambridge Analytica claim it did. They say it was their data and their research that gave President Trump the winning margin. But that's near impossible to prove. No one can track in retrospect who voted which way because of which advert. There are simply too many variables. Political parties around the world will be considering the lessons of Cambridge Analytica. The big data genie is out of the bottle. But will it change the adverts you see in your next election? And will those adverts change your mind?
Scary enough, eh? Now, perhaps when we browse Facebook, how do they present news feeds to us? What kind of posts, status posts, do they recommend to us? Perhaps it's somehow based on our psychology, our personality, and recommend something that may affect us, the way how we think. And this is actually quite scary, and we don't know how actually Facebook is manipulating our minds. Now, the next video actually is also on Cambridge Analytica on the scandal about this. Now, this one talks a bit more about the company itself. A colleague from this company actually came out and confessed how they make use of Cambridge Analytica to manipulate how people think, as well to affect the voting or the election result of the US presidential election in 2016. Now, we won't be going into this video. I'll allow you all to look at this on your own, okay? Please take a look at this. Now, the next one is particularly scary for us here in Hong Kong, as well as more importantly in mainland China, because this one, the social credit system, they call it the 社會信用評分系統. Now, this one, they try to measure a score, a social credit score of each citizens in the whole country, and from there, to restrict them or to allow them to different benefits or welfare of the country. Now, take a look at this.
On the 14th of June 2014, the State Council of China published a document called Planning Outline for the Construction of a Social Credit System. What was being proposed was a rating system that would be fully implemented into society, that is not only meant to establish citizens' trustworthiness, but is available for everyone to see. Although the system is currently voluntary, it is set to become mandatory in 2020. Citizens would be constantly monitored, judged for their actions, and basically evaluated based on every choice they make and action they take. There will be different categories that they will be ranked upon, including behavior, personal preferences, and interpersonal relationships. From the people they hang out with, to the amount of time they spend on social media and playing video games, to the types of purchases they make and how much debt they have, the world will know. The score will then be used to determine a citizen's access to certain privileges, such as permission to travel abroad or book first-class tickets. Eventually, these privileges could include things like access to top schools and renting cars. In other words, any luxury that might otherwise be bought with money alone. By 2020, the government says that social credit will allow the trustworthy to roam everywhere under the heaven while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. Such ratings aren't unique to China. From eBay's seller ratings to Uber's passenger and driver ratings, Firms worldwide have been encouraging consumers to rank themselves and others. But only in China has the government decided it wants in on the action. According to the policy documents, if you receive a low score on the social credit system, then you could face the following penalties. You won't be eligible for positions in public office. You will no longer have access to social security and welfare. You'll face stricter regulations and frisking at Chinese customs. You won't be able to apply for any senior level positions in the food and drug sector. You won't be able to sleep in a bed in overnight trains. You won't be able to stay in high-starred hotels and restaurants and will have more difficulty traveling. Your children could potentially suffer because they won't be allowed to attend more expensive private schools. Critics have called the move a push towards a 21st century police state. Social commentator Marong Shutzen said, China is moving towards a totalitarian society where the government controls and affects individuals' private lives. This is like Big Brother, who has all your information and can harm you in any way he wants. Many governments, including the US, already spy on their citizens. Social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram collect an overwhelming amount of information on you, and Google is secretly recording pretty much everything you do. Google keeps the texts and videos you send and more or less tracks your every move thanks to the Google Maps app.
Now, I'm not sure what you think about this little video. I find this to be very scary. Now, it's trying to track our every move. Not sure if you pay attention to this right here. Did you realize that this, okay, well, or this? Well, I guess you guys know about these two icons, okay, the kind, what apps they are linked to. And, well, those apps, WeChat and all that, Weibo, okay, it's actually tracking our every move. The way we send messages between users of the application, as well as the whereabouts, places that we go. And when we go into a restaurant, we have to order with it. That's what I heard from people, and we make payment with them and all that. So it's tracking our every move. And from there, okay, based on something similar to Cambridge Analytica, they will be able to learn about our personalities. And okay, they also mentioned the year 2020, which is, well, not at all far away from now, which is about a month from now. And okay, they want to fully employ the social credit system throughout China. And I can see that they are heading towards that. And the kind of impact is something like this. If you have a low social credit score, you won't be eligible for position in the public office, so you won't be able to work for the government and be an official there. You will no longer have access to social security and welfare. So they are limiting you on your welfare in the society. Also, you face straighter regulations as Chinese customs. When you go through the border, they will check you more straighter and won't be able to apply for any senior position in the food and drug sector. Won't be allowed to sleep in a train, overnight train. Okay, well, we do that all the time in mainland, right? Okay, won't be able to stay high-starred, high-class hotels or maybe restaurants. So they're restricting you in every way. Also affecting the way your children get their education. Won't be allowed to attend expensive private schools. So it's affecting you in every corner. Okay, and this right here, totalitarian society, 極權社會, all right? This type of society, basically everything is controlled by the government. Government controls and affect individuals' private lives. So they are trying to make use of IT, making use of personality profile and all that social credit system to track down everybody. like Big Brother. Okay, Big Brother, if you know, is actually a term coming in from a very famous book by George Orwell. Okay, the name of the book is 1984, so it's a very good book. It's worth a read. Also, this one right here, coming in from Amazon, they call it the Alice's. Okay, it's something that you place at your home. They call it a home assistant. You just talk to it. It's basically like Siri, hey Siri, or hey Alice. And you just ask it to turn on the light, or turning on the TV, turning down the volume, etc., etc. So it's something like this at your house. What would it be able to do? Well, it's opening, turning on the microphone all the time, and be able to record every conversation you have with your family member. So all your private conversation, it is listening to it. I'm not sure if you're comfortable with it, and trust me, I would never ever install something like this in my house. All right. Google, same thing. We are using Google in every part of our lives, going from Gmail to Google Calendar to Google Map, actually tracking our whereabouts. Okay, if you're using an Android phone, okay, it is actually Google behind Android. Okay, and it's tracking where we are going as well. So it's learning everything about us. So it's not only in mainland. Okay, and lastly, this picture right here actually is something captured from a famous TV series. Okay, Black Mirror. Now this episode is talking about the social credit system. You can see that it is portraying a little number next to everybody. Okay, when the system, well, when you turn around, okay, it's more or less like an AR. All right. Where it augmented reality, where it overlays information about different people. You see the number right here is actually the social credit that they have. The higher the number, the better the score. All right, and from now on, the way you look at people is not just okay from your interaction with them, and you have your own understanding, but actually you look at them based on their score as well. If you interact with people with higher score, you get a better score for yourself as well. So it's a very scary world, and this is the episode talking about talked about in Black Mirror. Now the next part is called brain hacking. The term itself sounds scary. The main aim of brain hacking is to get you hooked. Now, applications, apps, programs, computer games, they want to hook you to the program to make sure that you come back constantly to play the game, to use the app, to use the program. Now, what they do is basically playing around with your personality, playing with your psychology just to get you hooked. Okay, it's playing around with your emotion and everything. It's basically trying to control you and to program you. Now, due to copyright reason, I cannot play the video here. Click this link and have a look. It is worth a watch. Well, I don't know what you think about this. And actually, you can see that different companies, they are trying to, well, hack into our brain just to hook us to the computer and to the games. And, well, perhaps while watching this video, you're thinking about, okay, checking your email or checking your messages, checking your game, your computer game here and there, hooking yourself to the video, to the monitor as well. Okay, and you see how they play around with the psychology and how dangerous this could be. Now, this last part is more about Hong Kong, here in Hong Kong. Now, this part, I won't be getting into those videos as all of them are actually in Cantonese, but they're really worth a read or watching. Now, here, this first one talks about the 5G network. Right now, most of us are still using the 4G for our communication, and when we get to 5G, it is 5th generation network, and it makes it easy for us to do Internet of Things communication, or basically every object in the whole world, they are on the internet, be able to talk over the internet. You may still remember I talked about the IPv6 when we were talking about data communication. IPv6 allows many more IP addresses, and later on, we are able to have everything, objects, physical objects in the world to connect to the internet. They call it Internet of Things, and the 5G network is actually supporting that and making the communication much faster. So what does it mean? It means that we can send data across the network, meaning much more data across the network, and that allows servers, computer companies, systems to analyze on us much better and to monitor us. And we were talking about the social credit system, and this, the 5G network, allows the computer system to monitor us, our every move a bit better and to greater extent. The next video, this one about the smart lamppost, as well as new Hong Kong ID card plus RFID. Now, this video, once again, also in Cantonese, the link is down here. This one, okay, the smart lamppost, 智慧燈柱, okay, has bring in big controversy in the society. Basically, people are worried that this smart lamppost is actually used for monitoring the movement of people in the city. Okay, as well, together with the new Hong Kong ID card, perhaps you know that the new Hong Kong ID card allows us to have RFID. What does it mean? RFID, okay, you may still remember, okay, with the old Hong Kong ID card, when we go across the Yi channel, Yi 通道, okay, when we go across the border, okay, checking through the immigration, we can just insert the card into the card reader, insert our Hong Kong ID card there, and go across the border. Now, that one still requires us, the old one still required us to insert the card. This new one, RFID equipped, the new Hong Kong ID card with the RFID equipped, it does not require us to insert the card. It does not require the machine, the reader, to touch, contact our Hong Kong ID card. Rather, they make use of radio frequency and read our Hong Kong ID card from afar. All right, and people worry that, okay, if you can read my Hong Kong ID card from afar without me ever knowing, without me needing to insert it into some card reader, so it means that you can get to know where I am. You can see sort of while seeing me through my new Hong Kong ID card using RFID remotely, and together with, say, the smart lampposts and all that, will be able to monitor us. Okay, and this last one, they are talking about implementing social credit system here in Hong Kong, not just talking about the mainland China. And so what we see early on about social credit system could be applied here in Hong Kong. And I don't know what you think about this. This, again, in Cantonese, take a look at this one. It's really good. So, basically, that comes to the end of this module. We've been talking about web data analysis, how Web 2.0, dynamic web pages, Web 2.0, users of the internet providing information, uploading data to the website, making use of database, basic idea about data analysis, and we have talked about cookies, and as well how they make use of all these technologies, all of our data to monitor us and possibly bring us into a world with the social credit system. That's all for this module. Thank you very much. That's it.